brush thing. So we'll be dealing with that also today too. I'm very happy to be here. In-house at Transatlantic Production. I met at the Melanin Conference this year, and our relationship has become very close. And he is also a brother like I am of the Order of Melchizedek and the Great Brotherhood of Sirius that we'll deal into also today. So we're going to deal with a lot of things. Now, first thing we're going to do is just get this glass of water. We're going to pour libations. So, Apit, Ashe, Osar, Ashe, Heru, Ashe, Aset, Ashe, Awas, Ashe, Thunderdog, Ashe, Astal, Ashe, Mamu, Ashe, Pele, Ashe, Het Heru, Ashe, Obatala, Ashe, Shango, Ashe, Iminja, Ashe, Orisha Oku, Ashe, Oya, Ashe, Olodarun, Ashe, Ogun, Ashe, Elegba, Ashe, Ptah, Ashe, Ra, to all the gods known and unknown. Ashe, to all the ancestors known and unknown. Ashe. So we can pour these libations and we'll get right into what we're going to deal with. The first thing we're going to deal with is because we have a lot of scholars out here that don't want to deal with Atlantis. Well, number one, Atlantis did exist. It predates Hemmitt, but now we'll understand now that this was all one landmass at one time. And not only was it one landmass, we also understand that Egypt was one of the capitals of Atlantis. Now we have proof coming from Nexus Magazine, May 1994, where they have temples, a temple of Anubis or Anpu in the South Pacific that actually deals with this particular. Here's a picture of Anpu on the wall, if you can focus in on that. There's a picture of Anpu or Anubis on the walls in a temple in the South Pacific, and it's saying in actuality that this Hemmitt mythology, they have carbon dated this, and it dates all the way back to Atlantis and Lemuria, which can go thousands and thousands of years. And we're going to deal with also unwritten history today with these particular monuments also too. So these are documents and all based on Atlantis with different hieroglyphic inscriptions and different things and all, and different hieroglyphic inscriptions on this particular article that the white boy is also dealing with. And it also deals with DNA, which is also melanin. You need to get some books too. We always give you references, and some of the best references for that is Atlantis and Lemuria by Rudolf Steiner, as well as for Atlantis. Then you have Lemuria. You would also have the Children of Mu, the Cosmic Forces of Mu, and the Land of Mu, or Mu, by James Churchward. Not Albert Churchward, but James Churchward. So this is some actual documents. Now that we have documents of Atlantis, as well as a lot of documents are also left in what you would call India, because that was all Indus Kush at that particular time. And so what it is there's nothing new under the sun, as well as only that which has been forgotten. You understand? Now we understand that also in the bottom of the British Museum, as well as the University of Chicago, they have documents on Atlantis, which Hemmitt went all the way back to Atlantis. We even know now that Osiris was a god of Lemuria. And when we deal with the Sphinx that's over 2 million years old, we'll go into some deeper mysteries also too. Now, for the first thing that we want to start off, with the temple that contains the inscriptions of 90,000 years old. And that particular temple is the temple of, excuse me, let me get this right, is the temple of Dendera. Now, Dendera has inscriptions in it 90,000 years old. Even though this particular temple was one of the latest temples built, it is one of the oldest temples. Why? Because they built this temple off of an older temple that they tore down. And the inscriptions, there was inscriptions in the wall, in a crack in the wall, that told them how to build the newer temple. We're going to treat this very careful, because we're going to treat this particular situation with Dendera with very authenticity, and also we want to treat this with a fine-tooth comb, because this particular temple of Dendera also indicates where we are going as black people, as well as the temple of Edfu and other things that we're going to get into. Now, this temple of Dendera, what you see here is a remake of the temple of Dendera. And what I mean is I'm going to show you Dendera in its ruins. This would be Dendera in its ruins. Now, Dendera is a place in Hemmitt, but this is actually the temple of Het-Heru, known as Hathor. Known as Hathor. Now, this is the ruin part where you see where the 19th century Napoleon artists came in and they redid the actual temple. So what happened was they came in and they drew these temples first. Then they did what you would call the representation of how it would look in ancient Hemmitt. And this is the remake of that particular temple. The one that would look like how it would look in the ancient Hemmitt. Now you see heads here of the goddess Hathor, even though the white boy put a little bit of wider noses on, keener noses on them. The noses in actuality were in fact wider noses and all. And I have, let's see, I have a color picture of the Temple of Dendera also. This would be a color picture done by an artist by the name of David Roberts. And there's a greater picture, but they don't show this picture much. And it's done, did you get a big good view of that? By the artist David Roberts, an 18th century artist that traveled to Hemmitt and drew the temples before the paint fell off of them. Because each temple was painted white and it had the hieroglyphic of the Medunetta inscriptions painted. Every last one of those was painted. And this is one by David Roberts, whereas you can actually see the nose is a little bit wider. We'll go into some deeper details in a few minutes. But this particular Temple of Dendera that we talk about is actually the Temple of Hathor at Dendera. Dendera is the actual place in Hemmitt. And now some people have a thing where they say Greek names and all, but there's no such thing as Greek names. The Greeks, remember, the first Europeans could not talk until Africans or black people taught them. And the first 300 years of Greece was also... The first 300 years of Greece was also black people. So they are the people that taught the language. So in actuality, when you hear Greece, you are hearing fundamental African language. So Egypt, it means Agatos, which means black, is also a fundamentally a Greek language, but it's actually a fundamental African language. There's no such thing as a European language, period. Because even Rome, the first 200 or 300 years of Rome, were black people. So therefore, we understand that even the Romans, remember the European couldn't talk, get Boney's account. You understand where he said we taught them how to speak. So those particular people couldn't even talk at that particular time. So the actual indigenous black people of Rome and Greece taught them how to talk. Now we have evidence on that also too. Now at this particular time, you will see the back view of Dendera. The back view of Dendera also too. Now, Dendera is a very important temple. You see the back view? Also, the side view of Dendera. The remakes now. We're interested in focusing on not so much of the ruined temples, because you can go up the Nile with Dr. Ben, Asa Hilliard, Charles Finch, or also, what's my man in D.C., Tony Browder, and you can actually see there's several tours, black and white tours, that you can go up and see the actual ruins. Now, there are two or three temples that are the best preserved. One is Dendera, one is the temple of Isis or Aset at Philae, and the other one is the temple of Edfu, the temple of Heru or Horus at Edfu. These are the three best preserved temples. You see, they just redid Hatshepsut's temple. We'll show you a picture of that one also. Now, one of the key books that you must get that they just put back in print, black people, is the book Brian M. Fagan's book, The Rape of the Nile. This is a book that was also recommended by John Henry Clark to most people. It was been out of print, but now this particular book has now been released back in print within the last month or so. And so some of these particular remakes you will find in this particular book also too. I'll be giving you other books that you can also reference also. Brian Fagan's book, The Rape of the Nile. And it says, Tomb Robbers, Tourists, and Archaeologists in Egypt, The Rape of the Nile. You see, so now this is a key book that you want to get so you can have some indication of what these temples used to look like, as well as a picture of the Temple of Dendera. And also, when I go into the Zodiac of Dendera, there is a whole section in here on how they took that zodiac and carved it down and took it to the Louvre in Paris also too. We're going to get into a lot of things today. Now, the next thing we're going to deal with what is called a colonnade. This is the colonnade that is on the outside of Dendera. Now, this particular colonnade is what you would see. Before you come into the temples, you would pass through this particular colonnade. You now see one in Paris. And in most buildings, early 19th century buildings and 18th century buildings, you see a colonnade right over the door. Now, it's real key about this particular colonnade. Now, I want to show you this. Now, this colonnade, as you see, you can see some wings and you'll see a disc. Now, let me get a picture of the winged disc. Right here is another picture of the winged disc. And it is also showing the symbol of the white man, this winged disc. It's showing a symbol of the white man, and I'll get you an even better picture as we go on. It's showing a picture of, the black man, right when you go in the temple. This winged disc that you see, you see two wings, you see a disc, and you see two serpents. I should get a better representation of that particular winged disc. Okay, do you have that? Okay.
No, the book, angle.
Okay. Now you have that. Okay. This winged disc, you see a dot in the middle of the disc. You see two serpents. Now I got a papyrus that I'm going to deal with at the end of the lecture that will go into this. This disc you see in the middle is nothing but the black dot of the black sun in black people. This particular sons of Israel. Is Isis, is Ra is the sun, and you have the son of the sun. That's that sun, and it's also in all black people. No sun, no godship, no heaven. We'll go deeper into that as we go on. Now, this particular colonnade, if you can look real close, I want you to focus in on real close. You will see that there's a bridge coming right down, and there's water, and there's boats. And they had a bridge that was built across the water that came right into the colonnades of right before you got to the temple. So you could walk across the water with a bridge coming up to the colonnade, and then you go into the Temple of Dendera. And you see people coming on, and you see a procession going on. Different things that's going on also. Palm trees that let you know that this was a tropical land also too. Now, we want to go back, and we want to show you, we're still dealing with this Temple of Dendera. Now, why is the Temple of Dendera so doggone important? Well, it's very easy. The Temple of Dendera is so important because what is on the inside of the Temple of Dendera? What is on the inside of the Temple of Dendera is the famous Zodiac of Dendera, or the Zodiac of the Temple of Hathor. Now, this is very key. Now, if I may, I'll show you some things. I'll point out some things. This Zodiac has the symbol of the heavens. It has the pictures of Isis as the pillars of heaven, and her son also, Heru, as also the pillars of heaven also. This particular stuff that's going on the inside is nothing but all of the stars. It represents all of the heavens. Right over here you see is a picture supposedly of a black woman that says, as above, so below. That's the law of correspondence, which means as above, so below. Now, based on as above, so below, what you have is, this is the sky, this is the universe. And on the earth plane, you have the God of the earth plane, which is in fact the black woman. Even though, is it not written in your law that ye all are gods? John chapter 10, verse 34 to 36. The good book you need to read called Ye Are Gods by Annalise Guerin that deals with that. But this particular, the supreme microcosm of the macrocosm is the black female that you see right here stretching out her arms. Also represents the goddess Nut, stretching out her arms also. Now, it's real key because on the inside of this particular zodiac, you have a picture of a hippopotamus goddess. And she's giving birth to a dog. This hippopotamus goddess represents the constellation of Draco, the triple blackness of space, that gives birth to her first son. That particular first son is Sut, Al-Sut, which means the god of Sirius, the star Sirius. So the triple blackness of space in the northern hemisphere of the universe called Draco. She gives birth to her first son in her south gate, which is her vagina. And that first son is the first star in the universe known as Sirius, or Sophis, or Sept, or Sut. And that particular star is the central sun of our particular